Hey everybody, what's up? Aaron here, Kennedy and Looney. Should be a really fun day. We're starting early today because I've got a piece that I want to show and I was thinking about cutting it up. I didn't have time. So this is Michelle Rempel-Garner for a half hour straight. The second half of this gets very interesting. The first half is also things that people that want to be in touch want to hear. Michelle Rempel-Garner is going up margins, in my points, the way that I value her as a fighter for the future. She seems real to me. Anyhow, my name's Aaron. This is Kennedy and Looney. Like, share, subscribe, get notified. We've got a hell of a show coming up. We'll slip right into the question period just in time. Not too boring. We've got many clips from last night's and this morning's committee meetings. Very interesting stuff going down. Today is the big budget day. What kind of bomb is going to be dropped on us later? It's going to be out of control. I'm pretty sure it's going to be ludicrous spending. Anyhow, let's kick this off. Let's get this going. We've got a little intro to show here before we get into Michelle Rempel-Garner, and then we have a bunch of very interesting committee meetings. You'll get to see so many different MPs. If you're here to learn about Canadian federal politics, that is what we do here on the live show. We show the frontline hardcore politics. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and let's get into the show. Again, like, share, subscribe, get notified for these live shows. It's so censored, anything trying to educate the masses, not right wing, that's not me. I'm actually further than right wing, I'm a libertarian. I don't believe in this amount of government, but we only have this system in front of us. You don't get to vote for what you want. You get to vote for the food that was put in front of you. Are you going to choose that or this? That's how it is. Anyways, let's kick it off. It's going to be a great show. Thank you all for tuning in.
Questions orales, oral questions.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Here, here.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
The one we call Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, be aware of this.
Oh yeah. And now, oral questions, questions orales.
Oral questions, questions orales.
Let's see what's happening in the House of Commons right now. Clown circus at the sausage factory. Let's go.
The honourable member for Calgary, Nose Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, we're here today to debate a bill. Thank you. We're here today to debate a bill that is precipitated by the fact that the Liberals decided to not challenge a lower court ruling which would allow unfettered citizenship by descent, create untold, the department doesn't even know how many, citizens of convenience, And we're now on third reading of this bill, wherein the government decided to gut amendments passed by the committee, which would have required basic things like language requirements, cumulative residency requirements, security checks, and they gutted it. After not challenging a court ruling, they gutted these amendments, which were common sense. Even the Globe and Mail colleagues said that the amendment we put in place was common sense and that the government should have worked and accepted the Conservative and Bloc amendment with regard to the residency requirement. Even the Globe and Mail said this, and yet we have, just the parliamentary secretary, his comments were so rote and kind of feckless, frankly. And I want to tell you why. This bill deals fundamentally with the value of Canadian citizenship. And the reason why I can't support this bill, particularly without those amendments, is because without national identity, integration is impossible and the collapse of our country is inevitable. And I want to lay this out and why we need to have more value on Canadian citizenship and why this bill so denigrates Canadian citizenship, why it's going to create citizens of convenience that some future parliament is going to have to deal with. Mark my words, to the bureaucrats that are listening in the lobby, to future courts that will be dealing with this, future ministers that will be looking at evacuations from some country. This bill creates citizenship of convenience. It takes away the notion of responsibility from citizenship, and it will impact our country absolutely in the future. Okay. So, what is Canada's national identity? Colleagues, ahead of every election, I try to find the reason why I would run again, to ground myself in that purpose. Because for all of us of all political stripe, running it's such an honorable thing to do, but it also comes with a cost to our families. And I took my family to a visit, an art installation at the National Gallery. It's a visual art installation by Thomas Tallis's Spem and Allium, and it's this speaker setup. And when you sit in the middle of this installation, this is what I tried to convince or explain to my family. This is why I was running, because when our pluralism, the democratic institutions of our pluralism are upheld, Canada is a unique, beautiful thing in our history. It has all of these individual voices that function. They're disparate. They have disparate tones, disparate harmonies, but they come together and they work together, and they're greater than the sum of their parts. And it's actually, I encourage everybody to go sit in there if you ever want a moment of inspiration on what our national identity can and should be. But in telling my children that Cardiff's work, this is the installation at the National Gallery, still offers an accurate analogy for what Canada is today, I think I've sold them a bill of goods. Many in Canada would now describe our nation less as a melodically pluralistic counterpoint and more as a ghettoized cacophony. That sentiment flares up most often among the discussion of skyrocketing immigration levels, especially regarding whether Canada can integrate all of the people it's welcomed in the last 5 years. But attempting to answer that question leads to even murkier waters. In 2025, what does integration into Canada mean anyway? What is the value of Canadianship? And that ambiguity belies the actual problem. Canada's sense of national identity has been eroded by this government to the point of non-existence, and immigrants can't be expected to integrate into something that isn't there. In recent decades, successive Liberal governments have used legislation and regulation, like this piece in front of us today, to segregate Canada among regional and ethnocultural lines. Thus, in Canada, in 2025, our country is perhaps most aptly described as lines on a map, homes to tens of millions encouraged by their federal government to prioritize differences over similarities, reject nationhood for globalism, to take from the country before giving back, and to self-flagellate over historic failings rather than build on the nation's strengths for future resilience. Upon reading that statement, colleagues, many of you will have a visceral reaction. Good. How dare anyone question whether Canada still has a national identity? We're a multicultural nation based on the rule of law, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and equality of opportunity. Canada is the place where newcomers can retain their cultural identity while plugging into a sense of peaceful, pluralistic Canadian nationhood. That's the Canadian national identity, right? Well, not today. Not after this government. While that might be the prevailing romantic notion of Canadian identity held by some of these colleagues that have eroded it over the last decade, it is no longer accurate to describe it as reality, and admitting the truth is the first step in addressing the problem. For those requiring evidence, it abounds in our country's recent political history. Canada's political left has long led the global post-national movement, best described as the purposeful erosion of national identities in favor of supranational organizations and globalism. Former Liberal Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau set Canada on a post-national course with 1971's Multiculturalism Act, which encouraged newcomers to retain their cultural differences rather than embrace a shared Canadian identity. The erosion of Canada's national identity was further normalized in the 1980s via the Liberal government's National Energy Program, which deepened economic divisions between Western and Central Canada. The aftermath of 1995's Quebec referendum further contributed to the erosion of Canadian national identity by entrenching exclusive Quebec nationalism. Then in 2000, Liberal Prime Minister Jean Chrétien stated in a speech that Canada has become a post-national multicultural society. It contains the globe within its borders, and Canadians have learned that their two international languages and their diversity are a comparative advantage and a source of continuing creativity and innovation. Canadians are, by virtue of history and necessity, open to the world. Former Conservative Prime Minister Stephen Harper's government pumped the brakes on post-nationalism during its tenure. On immigration, Prime Minister Harper's government prioritized national identity with stricter language requirements for citizenship and a tougher citizenship exam. Regarding Quebec, it enshrined a key nationhood motion which included the phrase, "within a united Canada." Economically, Harper attempted to ease Western alienation by bolstering Canada's natural resource industries. And culturally, Harper's government focused on heritage spending, on platforming nation-building victories like the War of 1812. But all those reforms were reversed and far exceeded after Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took office in 2015. Essayists discussing Trudeau Jr.'s famous 2015 post-nationalism quote that there is, quote, "no core identity, no mainstream in Canada," often forget that he didn't just say those words. He operationalized them through a decade of socialist-oriented post-nationalist policies. So much so that his fervent focus on abolishing Canadian national identity may be remembered as the most enduring aspect of his legacy. On immigration, the Trudeau Liberals narrowed the age range for mandatory language requirements in citizenship applications, thus diminishing shared language roles in the Canadian identity for newcomers. They eliminated in-person citizenship oath requirements. They sought to erase references to practices like female genital mutilation as abhorrent in the Canadian Citizenship Study Guide, arguably normalizing their importation into Canada. They turned a blind eye to judicial rulings allowing immigration status to factor into sentencing violent criminals, valuing the process of entry into the country over the responsibilities associated with citizenship. They allowed Canada's compassionate asylum system to be abused into a mockery, and thus we have the bill in front of us today. The Trudeau Liberals have also normalized the practice of importation of conflicts from newcomers' countries of origin, rather than primarily encouraging the shedding of those quarrels in favor of a pluralistic, united Canadian identity rooted in Western democratic values. This phenomenon is best exemplified by the Trudeau government's tolerance of diasporic lobby groups' influence in elections and Canadian institutions, while simultaneously turning a blind eye to groups who sought to plant international conflicts and even terrorist principles in Canadian soil. And despite clear evidence of rising foreign interference in elections, the Liberals have yet to implement a foreign agent registry. The Trudeau Liberals have also prioritized cultural and ethnic differences over a shared ethos of equality in hiring and storytelling. For example, they embedded divisive, quasi-racist hiring policies into federal funding for educational institutions. They allowed Canada's publicly funded national broadcaster to consider abandoning objectivity for racialized narratives. And now they allocate news funding based on whether or not outlets sufficiently highlight ethnic, religious, or other group differences. Rather than enlisting newcomers to help strengthen a cohesive national identity, such as by constructively addressing the nation's historic injustices while simultaneously celebrating its positive achievements, the Trudeau Liberals actively erase symbols of shared historic Canadian identity from public view. They redesigned the Canadian passport to replace images of Canadian national heroes like Terry Fox with inert objects like a wheelbarrow. They supported activities that established the Canadian flag as a symbol of shame, as opposed to a representation of patriotism. And they worked to erase Canada's founders from places of prominence. Thus, Canada's political left has profoundly succeeded in transforming Canada into a post-national no-nation, free from the trappings of cohesive national identity. And for those who might argue that this was a good thing, they are very, very wrong. What Justin Trudeau overlooked in his Liberal government's zealous pursuit of post-nationalism is that his father's multicultural vision could only thrive under robust Western democratic institutions. Without a government prioritizing above all else, especially over partisan ideology, the safeguarding of principles like freedom of speech, secularism, the equality of opportunity, multiculturalism, will inevitably destroy a peaceful and democratic nation. The proof is in the pudding. Today, in Canada, after decades of post-national, national identity-destroying policies, less than half of Canadian youth say they would fight for our country. This marks a startling shift from generations ago when Canadians fought for what seemed to be immutable freedoms in great wars. Diasporic conflicts now erupt on Canadian streets, hate crimes against ethnic and religious groups have surged, and the once strong Canadian consensus on immigration has been solidly broken by this government. If Canadians want to reverse the pluralism-destroying course Liberal post-nationalism has set us on, everyone, regardless of political stripe in this place, must acknowledge that post-nationalism has eroded Canada's national identity to the point of non-existence. That state of affairs is likely the biggest threat to our sovereignty today, no other nation included. History proves this conclusion first correct. For a civilization to survive the test of history, it needs some sort of cohesive shared identity. Without it, collapse occurs. There's even examples to be found within Canada's own evolution in the 20th century. In the early 1900s, a Canadian national identity had taken root in spite of high levels of immigration. Forged in the crucibles of battlefields like Vimy Ridge, peoples of many backgrounds fought together as Canadians, united by shared values of democracy, rule of law, bilingualism, and loyalty to the Crown. To be Canadian, then, was to embrace English or French as a primary language, respect parliamentary institutions, and demonstrate civic duty through collective efforts in war and nation building. Fast forward to today. Our domestic efforts failed to build critical national infrastructure, have allowed our military to atrophy to the point of near non-functionality. Our foreign policy rewards the tactics of terrorist organizations and abandons Western allies in times of crisis. Logic dictates that if the Liberal government continues eroding the Western democratic values that once, but arguably no longer, underpin Canada's rapidly disappearing pluralistic national identity, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and equality in the rule of law's application, then collapse is what should be expected of Canada's once vaunted pluralism. Those looking for remedy from today's Prime Minister, the Liberal Prime Minister that sits here today, will be disappointed, as evidenced by the fact that he put forward a bill like this in front of this place and then gutted amendments on things like language requirements. Long an adherent to the World Economic Forum's globalist blend of post-nationalism, the best definition of Canada's national identity the current Prime Minister has managed to muster was this: we're not the United States. His new Minister of National Identity managed an arguably worse response, offering pithiness like, I won't stand here and pretend that I can tell you what a Canadian is or what it should be. That neither could define Canadian identity as rooted in shared respect for things like the rule of Western-based law, freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and equality of opportunity is telling. Nor could they talk about the supremacy of this place and that the fact that we here, who represent all of the Canadians in this country and abroad, have the right to challenge court rulings and to set law. And that is a core part of what we do to strengthen Canadian national identity. The reality is, for the current Liberal Prime Minister, is that his government must reverse the many changes his predecessor made under their aggressive post-national doctrine in order to rebuild Canada's national identity, prevent pluralism's collapse, and to retain Canadian sovereignty. How can we talk about things that are in the national interest if the government can't define what the national interest is? If he fails, if this Liberal Prime Minister fails, the effect will be the same as if he were to tip over that art installation I spoke about in the National Gallery, a shameful and purposeful squandering of an intricate and delicate masterpiece. And that is why I stand here and oppose this bill. There should be no citizens of convenience. If somebody is to be a citizen of this country, they should be able to speak one of Canada's official languages. They should have a clear and demonstrated ability to understand that the responsibility of Canadian citizenship is to uphold our democratic institutions. And how can we measure that, colleagues? Through a citizenship test. The Liberals gutted that amendment that we made at our committee. You know, the fact that the government put a bill forward after not challenging a lower court ruling on something as vital as the value of Canadian citizenship and who should be eligible for that is bananas. It says that they don't give a rip about Canada's national identity, and it reconfirms the current Prime Minister's continuation of a post-national doctrine. You know, colleagues, we have been in a period of time where we have, especially with the trade situation that we find ourselves with our neighbours to the south, and we have the Prime Minister talking about, well, we need to have nation-building initiatives and whatnot, but he can't even talk about what Canada's national identity is. The only thing I've heard this Prime Minister talk about is the fact that we're not American. Well, then what are we? Colleagues, there's very clear definitions of what it could mean to be Canadian. Even in Canada's citizenship guide right now, there isn't a cohesive definition. But I think certainly on this side, we could manage a definition that was rooted in pride, in democratic institutions, and in how to maintain a pluralism, how to maintain a multiculturalism through respect for the rule of law. Colleagues, what we have seen through this government is the denigration of Canada's democratic institutions. The Supreme Court ruling this week on child pornography, censorship bills that take away our ability to speak truth to power. These are all things that erode Canadian sovereignty, and they support post-nationalism. There has never been a more important bill to oppose than this one. For people who might have been affected by the small amount of lost Canadians, we had a bill in front of the Senate that would have addressed these issues years ago. But the Liberals expanded this far beyond the scope of what our colleague in that place tried to do. The minister already has powers to rectify circumstances of citizenship. But what the Liberals are doing today in this bill, especially by gutting the amendments we put forward, is entrench that sense of post-nationalism in the country, erase our national identity, further erase our national identity, erode our pluralism, and further devalue Canadian citizenship. Colleagues, oftentimes in this place, we're tasked with the mundane details of program spending or, different types of policy. But colleagues, we have to be tasked and seized with restoring Canada's national identity and restoring and protecting the value of Canadian citizenship. I implore colleagues to vote against this bill, to make the Liberals go back to the table and come forward with a bill that is narrow in scope. There are tools at their disposal that they could use to challenge court rulings. They have chosen not to. But the value of Canadian citizenship, our national identity, is worth something more than what is in front of us today. So colleagues, I implore you, vote against this bill and protect our heritage and protect the value of Canadian citizenship. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the
Here
Government
we
House
go.
Leader.
Yes,
this is going to be fun.
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that the member get out into the community if she doesn't quite understand what a part of our Canadian identity is all about. At the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, this legislation adds, I would argue, value. The member talks. She's put a whole pile of stuff on the record. She talks about, for example, military spending, that we're not doing enough on military spending. Her leader actually went to 1%. We're bringing it to 2% with a goal of hitting 5%. She talks about not supporting allied countries. She and her government, or her Conservative Party, voted against the Canada-Ukraine trade agreement. She talks about infrastructure, and we're going to see a massive investment in infrastructure, no doubt, in the budget, Mr. Speaker, and the Conservatives, true to form, will vote against that. The question I have for the member is, does she not have an ounce of respect for the democratic process in which she...
Order. We need to provide time for a response. The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I'm so proud to stand here and reject liberal post-nationalism, reject everything that the Liberals have done to erode the value of citizenship, erode the value of our democratic institutions, and fight. I will stand here and fight for what is right. You know, my colleague opposite has a lot of shame to wear for all the years that he stood by and actively helped erode our national identity, erode our military, erode our national institutions. He stands up in here day after day and says, yeah, it's okay that the Liberals upheld this court ruling on. They haven't even come out and talked about the child pornography ruling. And I have been out in the community, Mr. Speaker. I see a Canada that has been reft apart by levels of crime I've never seen before, hunger, loss of affordability, and loss of the Canadian national dream. We need to restore that, and that's what Conservatives will do.
Question et commentaire. Député Jean.
The honourable member for Jonquière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not that Quebec has taken up the question of integration. That is why we are trying to set guidelines on immigration to ensure that immigrants are integrated in French and respect Quebec values, including gender equality and secularism. But admittedly, in Canada as a whole, it's harder to look at things that way. So I'd like to hear from my colleague about integrating immigrants and about the identity she says doesn't exist.
I agree with my colleague that Canada needs to have a strong national identity that is clearly defined and supported in shared symbols, in a government rejecting post-nationalism, which this government has to do. And I want to talk about language, because what the government did was they actually gutted a language requirement amendment from this bill, which the Bloc and the Conservatives worked on together. Mr. Speaker, briefly, my maiden name is Godin. I am speaking English in the House of Commons because of laws in Manitoba that prevented my family from being able to learn the language in which my family history was robbed from me. Part of my identity was robbed from me. And now we have a government who's rejecting that new citizens should have to learn one of Canada's official languages. It further erodes Canada's national identity. It further erodes the fact that we have two official languages in this country. And again, it's eroding that principle of national identity, which Canadians need in order for newcomers to integrate into our shared social and economic.
Questions and comments. Honourable member for Kildonan and St. Paul.
I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her incredible speech, really outlining how since the 1970s, successive Liberal governments have worked very hard to dismantle a national identity in Canada and the obvious detriment that has caused in society. My question to her is in regards to what's happening in citizenships through the courts with those who are not yet citizens in Canada but are seeking to become citizens and break the law. I think we're seeing concerning things that have been happening after 10 years of influence on our court system, and that they are making excuses and having lighter sentences for people who are breaking Canadian law in order for them to become Canadian citizens. Can she comment on that?
Yeah, member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Parliament is supreme. We have the right to make laws in this place. That's what parliamentarians need to re-embrace after a decade of Liberal government acquiescing to the courts in nonsensical rulings like the ones that they should have appealed in this bill that was precipitated this bill, but also the Supreme Court ruling that said that there should be no mandatory minimum sentences for child pornography. Across political stripe, we had Premier Wab Kinew of the NDP in Manitoba say that this was a ridiculous ruling, all the way to the UCP Premier in Alberta saying that this ruling needed to be appealed. Part of Canada's national identity and protecting it has to be, and protecting our pluralism, has to be protecting Canada's democratic institutions, which includes the supremacy of Parliament. It includes us challenging court rulings. We have to get back to our roots in so many different ways in order to restore those ties that bind us together as Canadians, that allow a pluralism to flourish. And if we don't do that, the collapse of this country is inevitable.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am so sick and tired of this Canada is broken narrative from the Conservative Party. I'm a proud Canadian, as is everyone in my riding. My family tree goes back to Laura Secord and the United Empire Loyalists, and growing up and living in Hamilton, where the Battle of Stony Creek was one of the defining battles that kept Canada Canadian and part of the British Empire. So I will not be lectured on Canadian identity by the Conservative Party of Canada. My question here is, do these Conservatives have no shame? Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Nose Hill. Order. Order.
Wow. That's big talk from somebody who ran for a party that's pulled down all of the statues of the leaders of our country. Yep. That's tough talk from a guy who ran for a party that was rooted in post-nationalism, that supports disgusting rulings like no mandatory minimums for child pornography. Do they have no shame? These guys don't have any shame. But Conservatives will always fight for our country, for shared national identity, rooted in things like respect for the rule of law, responsibilities associated with Canadian citizenship, for affordable budgets, for an affordable life. That's what we're fighting for. And I think my colleague opposite needs to check himself on the shame meter today. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Questions and commentaires. La députée de Shefford.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for Calgary Nose Hill for...
A little bit of French here, but this is the most tolerable Bloc Québécois member that you're going to find. Adrienne LaRoche is all right. The Bloc Québécois, I don't have any respect for them at all. LaRoche, I do a bit. Sort of interrupt.
Her speech. And in fact, we traveled together as part of the Interparliamentary Union, and we tried to explain who we are at committee. Well, my colleague touched on the matter of language in her speech, but what is the impact of having rejected the amendments that the Bloc Québécois Conservatives brought forward at committee, especially on the issue of language? And why were these amendments rejected in this bill?
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
There's the practical aspects of the rejection of the language amendment, and then there's the more macro level impact. Practically, by rejecting the language requirement, somebody could be an adult, gain citizenship through descent, and not be able to speak one of Canada's official languages. And my colleagues opposite are mocking that. And to me, that goes to the macro level narrative, which is the Liberals do not believe there is a national identity, and they don't believe in the importance of language rights. By rejecting this amendment, they are sending a signal that it's okay to gain citizenship by descent as an adult without being able to speak one of Canada's official languages. How can we be unified as a nation if we can't speak, if there isn't a requirement to speak one of Canada's two official languages? How can we continue to respect Canada's how we operate if that's not in place? You know, my colleague, she mentioned we've traveled together with the Interparliamentary Union before, and traveling with her has given me a lot of insight into why French language rights are so important in Quebec. She helped me rediscover my family history too, and how language rights have impacted me. And I have to say that by rejecting this amendment, the Liberals have sent a strong signal that they don't give a rip about language rights, and that they don't believe that language is an integral part of Canadian national identity or the responsibilities of Canadian citizens.
Mr. Bexty, for 5 minutes.
just so we know what's happening, we're flipping over to committee meetings right now. And so these are the investigations that go on daily. Like, I think some people think that they only go to question period. That's the only part of their job. They do a lot of other things too. I don't know if many on that side are doing any work. The Conservatives seem to work hard at these. Let's get this going. This one is Bexty. He kind of is always on the edge of snapping. He's a Conservative MP from Ontario.
Floor is yours.
Let's go.
Fantastic. It works. Welcome, witnesses. Thank you very much for being here today. So we've heard a lot about rhetoric on both sides of this issue. I'd like some maybe hard stuff for a moment. Have you done any electricity demand, grid demand forecasting out the next 5-10 years? Could you provide that data?
Yes. So provincial system operators, as you know, do demand forecasting for the provinces, right?
Specifically, I mean, including the EV mandate requirements.
That's right. So in our RIAS, we did do electricity forecasting or electricity system impact forecasting.
How recently was that?
2023 was the last.
So is that including any of the potential grid requirements with new economy, AI, data centers?
Yeah, it would have probably preceded that data center.
Okay, so do you plan to update that?
So that is certainly, that is part of our review, and when we go to siege,
I'm going to go rapid fire with this, so be succinct. The additional cost of...
Point of order. Rapid fire is fine, but when we have two people talking at the same time, it's hard for the...
Hard for the interpreters. I appreciate that. Thank you. If you... The grid build-out related to that, do you capture that in terms of the cost to the consumer for the EV mandate?
Yeah, that was, I think, Derek, maybe I'll turn to you on
Could you quantify that? How much per unit is the grid build-out required by the EV mandate going to cost the consumer?
Yes, when we do the analysis, it's a integrated analysis, so it takes into account increased electricity demand, and we do model the provincial systems, so we would have an idea of how that would affect rates in each province.
So can you tell me how much per unit? Just the transmission cost?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can provide that, Mr. Chair, to the committee.
By imposing the mandates, Canada is pushing, I mean, most recent narrative, Canada is pushing vehicle production south to the U.S. And has the department conducted any economic analysis on how the regulations have hurt the domestic auto manufacturing? Do they reflect the reality of today? And are you going to update that forecasting?
Clarify, Mr. Chair, that the mandate does not apply to manufacturing in Canada. It's to vehicles sold in Canada. 90% of our manufacturing goes to the U.S., but we will be looking at all of this as part of the review.
I understand that, but manufacturing is leaving, right? We have plants closing, jobs, the billions of dollars that are put into the battery plants, and nothing's happening, right? We're not going to build anything. And yet at the same time, we've got local companies like domestic companies like Edison Motors that are building diesel hybrids that are not necessarily plug-in hybrids. They're far more efficient than what the status or the equivalent market is, having a great deal of difficulty bumping into ECCC to get their product approved to even develop. So where does the department sit on this?
Could the member just clarify which item would like the department to weigh in on?
So all of them? I would like to know... First off, do you know how much you're hurting manufacturing? Like, what is the cost of the manufacturing? How many jobs do you think are going to flee the country?
Again, the mandate does not apply to manufacturing. It applies to sales.
I understand that, but it's the consequence of the mandate. And so manufacturers are ceasing operations and transferring operations out of the country.
I would say at this point we do not have any evidence to show that that is due to the electric vehicle availability standard.
Tell that to the thousands of people that are out of their jobs. We'll go to the hybrid or the diesel hybrid electric.
So just on that point, so take the point about Edison. These regulations don't apply to Edison, just to be clear.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's my point.
Yeah, so they
don't apply, so they cannot get approval to develop their hybrid diesel electric.
No, I don't think that's correct. So the Edison issue, and I don't want to get too much into it because I don't think it would be appropriate, but those are the on-road regulations for air pollution and the heavy-duty truck regulations. So,
right?
Yeah,
You're
but
the same department.
but this is not the EVAS. So just to be clear on that point.
Doesn't matter, right? You're not letting these local innovators evolve into something that might be useful because it's a ground-up development. We've heard lots of talk about, the mandates being a strong signal, and the strong signal is sending manufacturing out of Canada. Are you quantifying at all EV credits that are being paid by domestically?
Sorry about that. Time is up.
Time is up.
Thank you. Questions starting with Mrs. Thomas.
All right, guys, we're switching over to another committee investigation. Now we're going to have our girl, Rachel Thomas from Alberta. She's a cowgirl. Giddy up, just had a baby. She's as sharp as a tack. Let's take a look.
For 6 minutes.
Great, thank you so much.
She's great.
Mr. Chan, my first question is to you. In your opening remarks, you said that AI serves as innovation and empowerment in action. And in another post that I found by you, you said, with generative AI pushing the technological needle further, I see every innovation as a tool to empower creators. I encourage artists to embrace the discomfort, learn new skills, and stay agile. You never know what fresh styles or breakthroughs you might uncover, end quote. I'm hoping that you can expand on this a little bit more in terms of the opportunity that exists with AI in terms of advancing the creative sector.
Yeah, I think that one thing is for sure in my 15-plus career as a creator is that embracing the unknown is something that's that everyone should be doing. And when I'm using, whether it's data, whether it's like code, whether it's like this learning a new skill, it doesn't even need to be AI. Is it get uncomfortable, and you will realize the new serendipitous sort of connections that you make through your art, your connection with different stakeholders. I find that one thing that I've noticed that a lot of creators, they seem to just want to be in their own, silo or just their own medium. But if you flip the script and look at the opposite side of the spectrum, I often find that that's where the opportunity lies, especially when people disagree. So it was always been my mantra to explore something. If I'm feeling kind of like uncertain and I'm feeling a little bit jaded, I go, well, why am I being jaded? Maybe I need to confront it and learn what this is about. And once I investigate and invest my time into it, then I realize, whoa, I can actually do this. Oh, it unlocks this. I'm like, wow. And then my mind's just racing, and I was like, I can combine these things to create something even more, to amplify and scale my work. So I just think that allow the unfamiliar and the uncertainty as part of your creative process. That's what art is. Art is about democratizing your work, not just one particular medium, but if you have the ability to expose your work to as many people as possible, I think that's part of the embracing the unknown and really getting your work out there.
Thank you. In your opening remarks, you addressed copyright. Now, that has been a concern that's been expressed at this table by a number of witnesses that have come over the weeks before us. You made this statement. You made this statement, though. You said that AI is about accessibility, not piracy, and it would seem that you're somewhat dismissive of concerns around copyright. And so I'm just curious as to, again, the opportunity that is there versus what is the risk that is there?
Well, to be honest, I think we don't even need to look at AI. I mean, AI has really sort of like opened up more of a lens of what is happening before AI came about. Like, as I mentioned, a lot of people use my work as references mood boards, and that's the way it's always been existing. It's always been like that through the test of time. Every creator is referencing another person's master's work, another artwork, another masterpiece, and through that informs the way that they move in their trajectory as their art form. So I just think, for me personally, I'm like, well, if that's the case, I honestly I just got to continue to create more work. I got to create new artwork. I got to. It just empowers me to keep on pushing my artistic envelope, and that's just the way. That's the way of the universe is. Yeah.
So, I guess then, as government considers where regulation should lie, there's kind of two sides to that. Two ends of the spectrum, I should say. One is, let it be a free-for-all, really don't legislate at all. And then there's another side that would say, a lot of legislation is needed in order to protect more traditional art forms and cultural forms. What would you say to this committee in terms of where a good place to rest would be in terms of legislating AI?
Well, to be quite frank, for me is I'm the creator. I create the art, and to legislate it, that's a good. Well, it's a good question. I only can speak on my behalf as an individual, as what works for me and what I create, and I hope that what I create is, what I have to say is a perspective of what I have. I don't have all the answers to really how to legislate it, but I'm just showing my point of view as an artist of what I've been using as innovation and creativity, and what I reference from online to create my work. It's all part of the creative process. But yeah, I mean,
am I understanding you correctly then that there could potentially be a lot of harm done to creativity and the advancement of the cultural sector if it was legislated to too much of an extent? I honestly think this, for me personally, I allow the exploratory aspect of let the art and the artist to explore what works for them. So if you put too much control, that could stifle the innovation envelope. That's where so it's a fine line. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
5 minutes, please.
Thank you.
All right, we're crossing over to this one right now. This is Kelly Block, another cowgirl from Alberta. A little bit, she's older than Rachel Thomas, but this woman is a very sharp tack. This is from the OGO committee. They call it the Muddy OGO. Always very interesting committee investigations right here.
With our 6-minute rounds with Mrs. Block. Please go ahead.
Here we go.
Very much, Chair,
Block.
and I will be splitting my time with Ms. Marie-Hélène Goudreau, and so I will try and keep my intervention short. During the moratorium that has now been lifted, there were still more than 600 closures of postal offices, with many in rural and remote communities, often due to an inability to recruit a retired postmaster or due to the loss of retail space and the inability to replace it. A closure of a rural post office in my riding could mean the difference for a senior of having to walk down to Main Street to get their mail, as opposed to driving 20 or 50 kilometers down the road to another community. So, Mr. Obey, my question is for you. As an advocate for all urban municipalities, regardless of their size, are you aware of any criteria or parameters that have been put in place to guide the closures of post offices designated as rural, despite the minister's verbal assurances that it will only apply to certain post offices?
Thank you so much for that question. Certainly at this time, we're looking for more information. As I initially indicated, fundamentally, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities believes that all municipalities need to be consulted as a part of this process. The definition of rural, I know, certainly can be a challenging one, not just for Canada Post, but for FCM, and I'm sure for this committee as well. That said, though, certainly we believe that it's critical that when it comes to these rural locations, that there's adequate service. As I mentioned, and as many of the witnesses so far have indicated as well, Canada Post is fundamentally a lifeline for many of these rural communities.
So then you would say it's still not clear as to what the criteria will be for the closure of these rural post offices, given they're lifting the moratorium? Just a simple yes or no.
I'm not aware of what the criteria would be at this time, only to reinforce that certainly municipalities would want to be a part of those conversations.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it over to my colleague.
Mr. Patzer, please, for 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, the witnesses, for coming. I kind of want to pick up on that thread about access to services, because I have a letter from one of my villages that I represent here. They have to send in water samples weekly, and they only have Canada Post as an option to send that. So, Mr. Olby, to you, I guess. The definition of rural, I think, is a very important piece. And do you have what FCM's working definition of rural is handy?
I don't have a clear definition that I'd be prepared to give today. That I think is what you're looking for. That said, I'd be more than happy to follow up with the clerk.
Is that something you could follow up with this committee with what the working definition that FCM uses for rural?
Yeah, as I said, sorry, I would be happy to follow up with the clerk in order to provide this committee with information.
Thanks. Greatly appreciate that. Yeah, I think the business element as well too, right? I mean, many of these small towns, people are trying to set up small businesses. The service sector is large in small communities, but again, when there is only one option for getting delivery for whether it's parts, whether it's merchandise, whatever it might be. I think that really underscores the need for rural communities to maintain their post office boxes. I'm just wondering, in your conversations that you have with your membership, what are you hearing from them in regards to the operating small businesses in small and rural, these rural and small urban communities?
Canada Post services are absolutely critical in order to be able to have small businesses function. There was a study that recently the CFIB noted that 44% of rural and remote businesses say that losing Canada Post services would seriously impact them. Fundamentally, it's about competitiveness for our country. We need to ensure that our rural small town business owners are able to compete globally. In order to be able to do that, we need to have access to services such as Canada Post. So, absolutely, you're right. We need to ensure that those services are available so that they can succeed.
One other question I have for you. Seniors typically live or choose to live or to move out to rural communities because they can afford a house there. For your proposal for around affordable housing, that seems to me like that would fit into a large urban center, but I'm just wondering, have you guys considered the impacts that could potentially have on smaller communities if the government isn't very clear in what they're defining a rural community for?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, certainly we see this as an opportunity. When it comes to affordable housing, really we see a lot of the opportunity within rural Canada, or what at least many of us would consider to be rural Canada. So, for example, being able to use those underutilized post offices for affordable housing, whether it be for seniors or for any Canadians in rural Canada. So, for example, many of these post offices have significant real estate along with them, and we see an opportunity to be able to leverage modular housing, for example, in order to be able to provide more housing within these communities. At the end of the day, really, we believe that these public lands should be utilized in order to be able to help Canadians build more houses.
How many of your members use their own houses for post offices? I mean, I know that's a common thing in my neck of the woods. There's lots of little villages where it's in somebody's house, or maybe the village or the RM moved in an ATCO trailer and it's actually ran out of an ATCO trailer on site. How common is that? Are you aware of that?
I'm familiar with the practice. I would respectfully suggest that Canada Post be able to provide you with the most recent numbers on the number of postmaster provided locations. But certainly it's significant. I wouldn't want to speculate with the committee on the exact numbers, but it's something I'm certainly aware of, and there are a large number of them. It's a very common method of postal service within rural communities.
And I think it would be fair to say, and I would suspect you would agree, that kind of signifies the importance of the service it provides to our rural communities, correct?
Absolutely. Again, Canada Post is a critical element of the services for a rural community. Fundamentally, we want to see Canada Post thrive and succeed, because when Canada Post is doing well in that way, rural Canada has the opportunity to be able to succeed as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pastor. We'll go to...
And now I'm going to go to the question and answer segment. And the first round is a 6-minute round. 6 minutes is for the question and answer. So I'm going to ask everybody to be as concise as you possibly can so we can get as many questions in. Thank you. I begin with the Conservatives. Ms. Conance. Helena.
Conance is pretty good
Chair.
here.
Through the chair, I want to thank Mayor Johansson for attending today in your role as the chair of the Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital Board. I think it's important that parliamentary studies like that we're pursuing here include voices from regions across the country and in rural regions also. Specifically in the case of South Okanagan General Hospital, the South Okanagan General Hospital, we both know that we've heard from residents and media multiple times about sudden closures of emergency room services. How many closures have there been in the last year, would you say, roughly?
There's been exactly 30 closures within the last year, September 1st, 30th to October 1st.
Okay, great. And when I counted from last September, I had counted 37, but again, it's there are a lot. That's pretty serious closure of emergency room. How much notice are you given, or residents of the South Okanagan given, about the closures that occur very regularly?
1 to 2 hours at the most is when we hear about that the hospital is actually being closed.
So 1 to 2 hours before the doors are closed, the local government finds out, and then media is alerted?
Well, I should actually clarify, it's not 1 to 2 hours that the doors are actually closed. We get 1 to 2 hours notice of a closure, and usually that closure happens depending on the day. Sometimes it could be, we get notice in the late afternoon that it's going to close in the morning, those types of things. So not much notice, though, not enough time for it to really get out in the public, where somebody would make sure that they're aware that they can't go to SOGH anymore, that they need to go to Penticton.
How do you let the people of the region know that the doors are closed and locked, that if their child falls, breaks their arms, hits their head, that they can't go to that hospital, they can't go to their local hospital at that time?
The only notification is through the media, through Castanet News, with a PSA from Interior Health.
It sounds very dangerous to me, last-minute closures. Have you witnessed serious situations where people have showed up to the door and needed someone right away, but had no one to help them at the hospital?
I for sure have gotten calls from residents telling me stories of tragedies that have almost happened, where they've gone to the hospital and the hospital has been closed and they've had to head up to Penticton. Of course, the ambulances are aware of that and they do transport as well, but you're a half hour away at minimum for that transport. That's about all I can say on that.
How long would it take for an ambulance if they were called suddenly to the hospital? If someone showed up to the hospital doors, and because Penticton is, depending on 45 minutes away, hour away, would you say 35?
Yeah, Penticton's 35 to 45 minutes away. And then, of course, ambulances are available as they are available. If they're responding to calls within the area, they may be delayed as well. Anybody with that level of sickness, I would hope, is calling an ambulance at their home as opposed to showing up at the hospital and then calling an ambulance.
Why are these closures happening? You must have a really good, in your role as the chair of the Regional Hospital Board and the mayor of the local community. Why are these closures happening?
Basically, lack of physicians. We are able to we've had enough nurses through our travel nurse program to be able to support the hospital, but lack of physicians is where it comes from. Probably 40% of the resources to keep our hospital open come from outside of the town of Oliver. The real root cause of the problem is that we just do not have enough physicians in our community that are able to support the hospital as part of their practice in the Oliver area. So doctors have to come from outside of our community to support the hospital.
All right, gang, we're going to cross over to this now. This is another committee investigation. We've got Rosemary Falk and then Garnet Ginu, and then we'll slip right into question period.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for both being here today and sharing their knowledge on this topic. Professor Fortin, I'll start with you, if I may. You had mentioned in a previous round of questions in your answer that the government didn't anticipate the effects of their immigration policy. So I'm just wondering how can that be? Would the government not be consulting with employers and industry where the labor gaps are? Like, I just don't understand how we can have such a massive side effect of a policy and them not anticipate that.
Oui, merci pour cette.
Thank you for the question. It's difficult to go back to 2016 to determine where that policy came from, but it seems that the government was highly influenced by the report from its Committee on Economic Policy that stated by opening the door wide to immigration will have much more rapid economic growth. The GDP will increase, the GDP per capita will increase faster, and Canada's international stature will be improved. As ambassador to China, I'll stand up before Mr. Xi, but I look like somebody more serious than if I'm in a small country with only 30 million people. So the analysis that underlay that Committee on Policy in 2016 was simply bad. It was ill thought out from an economic standpoint, unfortunately, and the government, starting in 2016, was sort of the wizard's apprentice. It launched this unprecedented immigration explosion, which was stopped a bit by the pandemic, but started even more so after 2021 with the negative consequences. We know the Prime Minister at the time, Mr. Trudeau, said that
big
immigration policy.
On me there. I thought that guy was going to be not an ignorant francophone, but instead he chose to do that because I saw him speaking in English earlier. My mistake. Let's find something better to watch. Here we go. This is good.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, you do need the human touch. We just finished the World Series. A company out of Waterloo, Trajek Arc, had a big factor in the World Series. Everyone's saying, how did that happen? It was an AI pitching simulator. The Blue Jays had a 22-year-old young pitcher, Trey Yesavage, that nobody saw. His trajectory was above what is normally you come down here and they're here. But Joshua Pope, who is from Waterloo, projected the pitching simulator, started selling this to Major League Baseball, if you don't mind. The Dodgers sent every one of their hitters with a video from this simulator of Trey Yesavage. Now, it didn't help him. He still struck out 12, but maybe it did help him on Saturday night when they got a run off him. So, Mr. Fogelin, you're seeing, and you did mention 300 or 34,000 plus jobs in this country. I would say to you, watching the World Series, And everybody went to Waterloo and did a story on Trajek Arc because, as you said, you're looking at stadiums, but now I am looking at an innovation, a creative innovation by a Canadian company that has changed Major League Baseball, how they go forward. So can you maybe talk about that? Because the Yankees didn't have that pitching simulator. When they first saw, you saw him in the dugout, how is this guy doing this? And then the Dodgers learned from that. So AI is coming. It's already here. In fact, I'm going to mention ABS next year, the automated ball strike, that we all question the umpires behind the plate. That's going to be AI generated. So maybe talk about this if you don't mind.
Do you want to talk about it from the perspective of video games and entertainment software? Okay.
Yeah.
I love the question. First of all, so the wounds are soft for the Jays' loss. So seeing Warren's hat, it mixed emotions, but the boys did a great job, and we should all be happy that they gave us so much joy. I am glad that you mentioned like the technological innovations in this country. A lot of the technological innovations come from spin-offs from game design technology, right? So in particular at ESAC, we authored a report a few years ago called Beyond Entertainment. And while we didn't look at that technology in particular, right, we had a myriad of case studies, right, of technology that's been developed in the video game process that's being used at children's hospitals, that's being used for mental health experts, that's being used in the education process, right? And I think that these kind of developments are, again, they're going to be essential not just to making cutting-edge entertainment software, but to expanding to other areas, right? And so, technology like the one you mentioned, the video game development process has a role to play in creating these sorts of new technologies. Not that particular one, and I don't like to hear that it maybe helped our opponents, but in all seriousness, like this is, we're in the entertainment business, it's in our name, but there's some serious non-entertainment benefits that come from the technology that the industry spurs. And it's because of that massive audience for games made in Canada that we have the opportunity and our members have the opportunity to invest in these technologies.
You said on your opening statement, safe and welcoming. And I'm just looking at the U.S. It says AI is an invaluable tool protecting players and promoting safety. So how are we doing it in Canada? Because you did mention it off the top.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. And I mentioned the content of moderation tools and player safety. So our industry is very proud of our shared value on player safety. It's not a competitive issue in the video game industry. It's all our members agree that player safety is paramount. And so whether it's a console like a Nintendo, an Xbox, a PlayStation, or games themselves, a lot of games are social, right? They're online. Whether it's large sports games or action games, games like there's a myriad of them. And so these have chat functions, they have communication tools, and our industry has wonderful parental controls, tools that you can use to set settings, limit who players can talk to, limit playtime. But live chat moderation is a little more difficult. You can imagine if you're on a headset and you're talking in the middle of the game, people can say some pretty offensive things. Having a tool like AI, and I mentioned like Activision Blizzard with Call of Duty, and I know it's been used by Riot Games and Valorant. They can use it in a very quick fashion, catch potentially toxic language and things, which just helps add another layer to that overall sort of perspective towards player safety. Does that help answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Waugh. Ms. Thomas, you have 5 minutes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. Mr. Fogelin, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. More wanting to, I guess, dig into the economic opportunity that AI presents specific to the gaming industry. With AI driving new efficiencies and creative possibilities, what kind of economic potential do you see in that?
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Janice, for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses. We've highlighted the Conservative Youth Jobs Plan what we've put on the table and proposed to the government in terms of confronting the youth unemployment crisis. And the 4 parts of it are unleashing the economy, fixing immigration, fixing training, and building homes where the jobs are. And my questions in this round will be to Mr. Fortin, but I want to just highlight, Ms. Bednar, I appreciated your point about the overqualification of many young people. I think it's important to understand that we're dealing with a situation in which there are not enough jobs. There are issues of training misalignment, and there's issues of not enough jobs, because some on this committee would like to focus purely on the idea that we need more training. But in reality, what we're seeing is a lot of young people that are highly trained, but there are misalignments in training, but there also simply are not enough jobs. And you cannot, there's an important role for discussing the issues around training, but you have to, the first point of our plan, unleashing the economy so that there's enough jobs for young people that are there. Mr. Fortin, thank you for your work on this, your testimony, highlighting that there is a multiplier, sadly, that when the unemployment rate is going up overall, the youth unemployment rate is generally going up by more. But you've also highlighted how that magnification effect is getting greater. And it seems not only has it been wider over the life of this government than it was in previous times, but it is progressively widening, and that's very alarming to me. I think that should be alarming to all Canadians that we see this further magnification, and you've attributed that to immigration. But just to start off on the issue of how unemployment overall affects youth unemployment.
All right, gang, we're going to cross over to question period right now. That's what we're trying to do, and we'll make it as smooth as we can. Here we go. Well, welcome to church.
For St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals measure success by how many tax dollars are spent. They say the number in today's budget is what matters. Yet Canadians know why more debt financing is being offered. Liberal policies have failed to build, empower, or protect our country. Conservatives are calling for an affordable budget for affordable lives. We want affordable lives for the 1 in 5 Canadian food bank users who work hard but cannot afford to feed themselves. We want affordable lives for seniors who are being crushed by higher prices because of the industrial carbon tax and the food packaging tax. We want affordable lives for the parents who are forced to spend $800 more this year on food compared to last year.
That's right.
The Prime Minister said, judge him by the prices at the grocery store. Canadians have judged. They want no more of the same. They want change, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here, here.
The Honourable Member for La Salle-et-Marne-Verdun. Mr. Speaker, with municipal elections having taken place across Quebec, and even if the results aren't official yet, I would like to warmly congratulate the new mayor of Montreal, Soraya Martinez-Ferrada, and all the new mayors and elected officials in La Salle-et-Marne-Verdun and the Southwest.
With all of you for La Salle-et-Marne-Verdun's benefit, je veux aussi...
I would also like to thank all of the candidates who ran for office. Our democracy is based on a diversity of choices and on ideas that guide our various levels of government. Our fellow citizens are fortunate to be able to count on such dedicated and courageous people to represent them.
Voters who participated, thank you. Our democracy thrives when we all engage. Know that I'm looking forward to working with our newly elected municipal representative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
The justice system hit absolute rock bottom this past Friday when the Supreme Court ruled that there will be no mandatory minimums for monsters who access and possess child sexual abuse content. This comes after 10 years of soft on crime liberal policies. Let me be clear. We're talking about 2 monsters that were in possession of hundreds of images and videos that were made by torturing innocent children. Conservatives immediately announced that we would use the notwithstanding clause to overturn this very dangerous ruling. Monsters that possess child sexual abuse content are not victims, they are criminals. We should lock them up and throw away the key. As a father and a parent, I find this disgusting. The innocence of our children should be protected at all costs. If we cannot protect our children, my fellow members, then who are we? The Prime Minister has remained silent on this issue, and Canadians want to know why.
Ned Kirk is real deal. I like
the honourable
Ned
member
Kirk
for
a lot.
Tilburn.
She won by
Mr. Speaker,
one vote.
today I want
one
to
vote.
highlight a program that is transforming the lives of our children, the National School Food Program. Every day, this program provides thousands of students in my riding and across the country with a healthy, free, nutritious meal. It's not just a social measure. It's a real investment in academic success, in public health, and in equal opportunity. It's an investment in the future of our young people, because young people with full stomachs can succeed. I am very proud of this program. It's a tool to help build a society where every child can learn on a full stomach. I'd like to commend the exceptional work of the schools, community organizations, and volunteers who make this program possible. Organizations like the Breakfast Club, which works across Quebec. Thanks to their commitment, we are collectively affirming that eating well at school is a right and not a privilege. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
Canadians want an affordable budget and an affordable life, not a Prime Minister who profits in secret while people line up at food banks in record numbers. $6.5 billion. That's how much experts say that the Prime Minister's former company, Brookfield, sheltered in tax havens over the last 5 years offshore. The Prime Minister helped set up 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. Funds he stands to benefit directly from through bonus pay. Canadians deserve to know that their Prime Minister is making decisions in the public interest, not his own financial interest. Liberals can keep protecting their boss. Conservatives will stand with taxpayers. We'll expose the abuse. We will defend hardworking Canadians. And we will hold the Prime Minister accountable for putting his profit ahead of their lives.
The honourable member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, this week we are honored to welcome members of Burnaby Firefighters, Local 3232 Ottawa, the brave women and men on the front line of public safety. Bienvenue à Ottawa. I remember visiting Fire Station 8 in Burnaby, a modern, purpose-built facility where our firefighters have the best tools to return home safely after every call. Day after day, they face danger with courage and compassion, often at great personal risk. Beyond emergencies, they are pillars of our community, supporting families in need and volunteering for local charities. I want to recognize President Doug Petit for his years of service and for leading by example through every challenge. On behalf of the people of Burnaby Central, I honor these women and men whose courage turn fear into hope and duty into commitment. Mr. Speaker, let's stand together and applaud our true heroes, and let's make sure they are well protected by the law of our country. Merci.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Let's do it. Andrew Scheer's the man.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar this Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians in either inflation or tax hikes. And today we'll find out just how many dollars this government is going to take out of the pockets of Canadians. There is going to be one difference today. After today, every tax rate, every piece of red tape, every rule, regulation, and every bit of wasteful spending will be exactly how this Prime Minister wants it. Conservatives have been clear. We will not support a costly budget that makes life more expensive for Canadians. So instead of asking Canadians to pay more for a big bloated bureaucracy, why not bring in an affordable budget that lowers prices for everyone?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Then it's a great day for the official opposition because we are going to have an affordable budget. We are going to have an historic budget that creates opportunity for young people and Canadians from coast to coast to coast, building this country, making sure that government works for people, invests in their communities. And, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to having the Conservatives support this great budget.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
That would be an 11th hour change because this government has been telling young Canadians that they're going to have to sacrifice more so that government gets bigger and bigger. They even try to deny that their hidden taxes on food makes life more expensive. They call those hidden taxes imaginary. Let me tell you, the farmer that has to pay the industrial carbon tax on his new equipment or on the fertilizer he buys has to pass those costs on to Canadians, and food prices go up as a result. He doesn't have the option to not pay the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer. So a concrete measure to help bring prices down would be to scrap the industrial carbon tax. Will they do that today?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Here we go again, Mr. Speaker, with these imaginary taxes. There is no tax on food. There will never be a tax on groceries. And great news for the opposition, today's budget won't have any of these imaginary taxes in them either. What this budget will have are historic investments in young people, in building this country, in building communities, and in making this country stronger, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Farmers can call up CRA and say that the carbon tax on farm equipment and fertilizer is just imaginary, or maybe they can write imaginary checks to pay for them, Mr. Speaker. But it's not just the industrial carbon tax that's driving up food prices, it's also the Liberal fuel standard. When truckers take the food from farms to factories to grocery stores, they can't tell Revenue Canada that those taxes are imaginary. They have to pay that extra 17 cents a litre. So again, to help bring prices down for working Canadians, why not scrap the fuel standards that are driving up food costs?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, this is more about the talk of imaginary taxes coming from the other side. Right. But you know what? If you want to talk about clean fuel regulations, you don't even have to just take my word for it that's not a tax. You can check the Canola Digest because they point out this provides opportunities for farmers. When we're talking about biofuels, this is an important place. It's an opportunity for canola farmers. I hope that they support it, and I hope they support our budget.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent à Kiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, in less than 2 hours, the budgets will table their 10th deficit. In 2015, they were elected by saying 3 small deficits and no more deficits after 2019. But the reality was that the debt has doubled under the Liberals. The cost of housing has doubled under the Liberals. And the Prime Minister told young people, you'll have to sacrifice even more. Mr. Speaker, instead of asking young people to sacrifice their future, instead of having an expensive election, why not have an affordable budget for an affordable life for Canadians? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House, the member across the way, will have a great day today because, yes, we'll have an affordable budget that protects the most vulnerable, that invests in our youth, that invests in our world, that invests in communities from coast to coast to coast, a budget that will create opportunities, that will build our country, to build the strongest G7 economy. So I would like to ask the member to support us today. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent à Kiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians want a budget that will protect their cost of living. People are hurting with regards to food. Inflation has doubled the price of some food. 2.5 million Canadians have to go to food banks. The Prime Minister was voted by saying he would be judged on the cost of food. And after 10 years of Liberal government, Sylvain Charlebois, a professor, says that if we have a look at the G7, we are currently the only G7 country that has had 4 consecutive months of food price increases. Will the Canadians finally have an affordable budget? The Honourable Secretary of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our affordable budget will have historic investments that will strengthen Canada. It will strengthen families and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. These investments will allow us to create jobs and careers for young people. It will allow us to build more affordable housing for young Canadians, and it will allow us to protect support measures that help families. Our government will table a budget that will build, that will protect, and that will strengthen Canada. And I cannot wait for the members across the way to vote for it. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent à Cawenrac. Mr. Speaker, we've had a proposal tabled for months that will reduce the cost of food, and that's abolishing the industrial carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, food doesn't just grow on trees. It has to be harvested from the trees, it has to be processed. Thereafter, it also has to be packaged and sent to stores, and that is where the industrial carbon tax kicks in. Mr. Charlebois, the same professor that I mentioned before, said yesterday before parliamentary committee, saying that the costs have gone up. The difference between us and the States have gone up because we have an industrial carbon tax and they don't. End of intervention. Inaudible for the interpreter. The Honourable Minister for the Environment. There are always people that talk about imaginary taxes, and they continue to talk about imaginary taxes, but let's get back down to earth. We've tabled a responsible budget that will tackle affordability, that will help Canadians because we support Canadians. We are ready to work hard for Canadians to build a strong future, and I hope that the Conservatives will support our budget to do that as well. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have announced that they are scrapping their plan to plant 2 billion trees. This proves once again that they haven't understood a thing. If everyone was laughing at them for this programme, it wasn't because the programme was bad and it needed to be cancelled. It was because the Liberals were incapable of planting the damn trees in the first place. Everyone was laughing at them because year after year they missed their target. Today we learned that they are abandoning the programme. Instead of correcting their incompetence, they simply just to give up. Is that really the Liberal approach?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, our budget today will seize a generational opportunity to transform our economy through ambitious investments, rigorous discipline, ensuring every dollar goes to help build the strongest economy in the G7, and we look forward to sharing that with the member opposite.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. I don't think he was answering from the right sheet, Mr. Speaker. The Liberals are cutting their 2 billion tree planting programme. That's what we're talking about. Just as they've cut carbon pricing, just as they are allowing their own environmental assessments to be circumvented through Bill C5. All the environmental measures put in place under Justin Trudeau, as meagre and insufficient as they were, are being abandoned one by one. It's setback after setback after setback. You'd think you were watching the Conservatives play, Mr. Speaker. So the question arises, do the Liberals actually believe in climate change? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. My esteemed colleague across the way will have to wait for the budget, but what I can confirm now is that we will continue to ensure that Canada is a key player against climate change. Instead of providing setbacks, we will continue to progress in Canada. I hope that the member doesn't want us to stop projects in Quebec, but Mr. Speaker, what I can confirm is that we will invest in our youth, invest in our regions, and invest for our country's progress. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are announcing the abandonment of their strategy to plant 2 billion trees today. But it's symbolic to abandon the only green measure remaining from the Trudeau era. It's ironic that it's happening on a day of a budget that is dangerous for the environment. The budget will detail the federal government's new strategy called climate competitiveness. If this means cutting carbon pricing, cutting electric vehicle quotas, cutting tree planting, and encouraging the expansion of oil and gas, shouldn't we just rename it climate capitulation? The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Mr. Speaker, the member across the way should know full well, because we've talked about it many times, that our government will continue to fight against climate change. Not only that, we will continue to build a strong Canada, because that's what Canadians want. They want to see that we have significant projects that means good jobs for the youth. That means a strong country, and we will continue to do so. And I really hope that they will be supportive of our budget.
Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Every dollar this Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians through higher taxes and higher inflation. And today at 4 o'clock, we're going to find out just how much more they're going to take out of the pockets of Canadians. And Canadians could be paying $300 to $400 more in grocery costs because of their food packaging tax. And Canadians are looking for an affordable budget for an affordable life. So will the Prime Minister instead scrap his food packaging tax instead of trying to engineer a costly election with his costly budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an historic day for our country. Today, our government will table a generational disciplined budget. We will transform our economy from reliance to resilience and build our economy in the strongest in the G7. We will spend less on government operation and invest more in capital projects and build our economy into the strongest economy in the G7. I hope the party opposite cuts the rhetoric and will support us and vote for our budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
We've heard this same tune from these Liberals before, and the result, 2.2 million Canadians visiting food banks. Their industrial carbon tax is another example of driving up costs for everyday Canadians. They're paying more and they're getting less. We want to know why they continue with these taxes, like their food packaging tax, that even Deloitte, we know they love consultants, and Deloitte is saying that it's raising the price of produce by 30%. So will the Prime Minister, while he's still got a chance, commit, instead of having a costly election, to having an affordable budget for affordable lives for Canadians?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, there is no food packaging tax. The party opposite is obsessed with imaginary taxes. Let's talk affordability, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. No comments on that. Let's talk about cutting the tax for first-time homebuyers. No comments on that. Let's talk about cutting the consumer carbon tax. No comments on that, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are focused on affordability for Canadians. Canadians made a choice the last election. They chose our side. They chose our Prime Minister. They rejected that leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Liberal spends, we know, comes from the pockets of Canadians, which drives up taxes and inflation. And now they're making it worse with their hidden food taxes. For example, the Liberal packaging plastic ban will add $5.6 billion to food prices because, of course, it forces producers to use more costly packaging that doesn't preserve food as well, which, of course, means shorter shelf lives, more waste, and higher food prices. So will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer this costly election with his costly budget and instead scrap this $5.6 billion hidden food tax, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as my colleagues have said, there is no tax. It's an imaginary tax. There is no tax on food packaging in Canada.
For Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the experts are telling us that these food packaging taxes will add $5.6 billion, and that's just one of them. They're also forcing the food industry to redesign food labels, of all things, which will add an additional $8 billion to the cost of food. Canadians aren't asking the Liberals to redesign food labels, Mr. Speaker. They're asking for more affordable food. So will they scrap this hidden food tax and save Canadians some money?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, there is no food packaging tax. There is no food labeling tax. There is no tax on groceries. These are imaginary taxes, and repeating these same lines is not going to make them real.
Like, it can't just be me. Like, McKinnon just does seem like a person that is full of shit. Like, if you ever saw him out anywhere, You would think, like, that's a person I'd rather not talk to. He looks like a creepy person with bad breath. Like, McKinnon is a joke.
Member for Oshawa.
Dr. Evil.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Liberals spend comes straight out of the pockets of Canadians through higher taxes and the skyrocketing cost of living. The Liberals can gaslight and call fuel regulations tax imaginary all they want, but my neighbours in Oshawa will feel the hit up to 17 cents per litre more for gas. Will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election with a costly budget and finally scrap the fuel regulations tax?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Going to do. We're going to stand up for Canadians every single day. We're going to invest in their futures. We're going to invest in the jobs that Canadians are talking about they want to take up. Mr. Speaker, this is a time when Canadians have pulled together to build Canada strong, and that's exactly what our budget's going to do. We're going to make sure the tools are there for every Canadian who is protecting this country. I hope these guys get on board.
Get on board.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable, Lotbinière. When the Liberal government spends a dollar comes out of the pocket of a Canadian.
Bow tie is a bad look. Like, nobody should ever wear a bow tie. You look like a clown.
Taxes on the backs of families who are struggling to feed themselves. Yes, it is a hidden tax when they pass a $5.2 billion bill to Canadians by changing food packaging rules. Instead of tabling a costly budget this afternoon, will the Prime Minister abolish the packaging tax and give $5 billion back to families in an affordable budget for an affordable life? The Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians know that there is no packaging tax. There's no tax as is described by the member. There's no tax on groceries. These are imaginary taxes that the Conservatives are dreaming up. They do not exist. Canadians already know this. The Conservatives should probably know this as well. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable-Haute-Binière. There's nothing imaginary when mothers simply do not have the money to pay for milk, cheese, meat, everything they need to feed their children properly. For example, Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon tax will cost them up to $1,000 in very real money every single year. Whilst they're wondering how they're going to pay for their groceries, the Prime Minister is trying to provoke a costly election with a costly budget. Why not think about families for once and simply cancel the industrial carbon tax instead? Because life is just becoming less and less affordable. The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, it's not because my colleague keeps asking the same question that he should get a different answer. My point is that he is drumming up imaginary taxes, but he's also not referring to the fact that we have reduced taxes for the middle class, for example. In the next budget that will be tabled this afternoon before this House, we'll protect our jobs, we'll protect our economy, we'll protect our communities. We'll also be here to build our country, build our economy with great projects, major defence investments. Our budget will also be here to help Canadians. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister returns from a mission to Asia, let us remember that China trades heavily in products made with forced labour, including child labour. Canada's economic diversification must never be achieved at the expense of slavery and human rights abuses. The Bloc Québécois has tabled Bill C-251 to prevent any importation from regions suspected of using modern slavery unless the seller can prove that they do not profit from forced labour or child labour. Will the government support our bill? The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my honourable colleague for that question. Our government does not support forced labour at all. We will continue to defend human rights throughout the world, especially through multilateral organisations. At the same time, we will continue to invest in our economy and have bilateral relations when it is necessary for our country throughout the world. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Chinese regime is guilty of genocide against the Uyghur and Turkic peoples in the Xinjiang. This genocide includes forced labour and child labour, whose blood and sweat are found in products such as cotton. This genocide has been recognised by this very House, but has not stopped the Prime Minister from courting China. The Québécois bill is simple. It mirrors what the United States is already doing to ban the import of products made with forced labour. The question is simple. Will they support the Bloc Québécois bill, yes or no? Unfortunately, I can't bring this to a vote, but I will hand it over to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, Canada is incredibly preoccupied by the treatment of the Uyghur in China. The report was one essential step that raised very alarming factors of what's happening there. China still has not acted in a significant way to respond. Canada will continue to work with its partners, its international partners, to resolve this situation. Canada is here for human rights every single day through international organizations. That is a priority for us.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Young Canadians are asking a simple question. What is left for me to sacrifice after a decade of failed Liberal policies? They're saying, I can't find a job, I'm delaying starting a family, I can't buy a home, I am living in my parents' basement. What is left to sacrifice, Prime Minister? And what is the Liberal government's response? We're going to mortgage your future with more generational debt. Will the Prime Minister stop breaking his promises, rein in his reckless spending, and finally deliver an affordable budget that gives young Canadians a fighting chance at an affordable life?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today's budget will deliver historic investments to build Canada strong. This means strong families and strong communities from coast to coast to coast. Investments that will create good quality jobs and careers for young Canadians, that will build infrastructure, that will put more affordable homes within reach for young Canadians, and protect the supports that help families to get ahead. Your new government is putting forward a budget to build, protect, and empower Canadians and Canada, and I hope the members opposite will join us and support the budget.
Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
They have been saying those same words for over a decade, but life has only gotten harder. They call it an investment, but it's not. It is a mortgage on our youth's future. A 19-year-old girl from Halifax was on national news saying she can't afford groceries, she can't find work. That is the reality behind their so-called investments. Youth unemployment is at 15%, not because young people have given up, but because this Liberal government has given up on them. So will the Prime Minister stop asking young Canadians to sacrifice even more and deliver an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, this government is taking action to make life more affordable for young Canadians. We are delivering on housing. You look across the country right now, average rents are down, mortgage rates are down, home prices are going down. That's benefiting young Canadians, and we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. We are doubling up on housing for young Canadians, making sure the first-time home buyers tax benefits up to $50,000, and we're going to deliver with Build Canada Homes, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
This Liberal Prime Minister told young Canadians that they must make some sacrifices. Well, they've already had to sacrifice good-paying jobs and the dream of home ownership, and they've already paid the price as food costs keep going up. A Liberal inflationary deficits throw fuel on the fire. A 19-year-old girl from Halifax said it best on national news. Quote, food insecurity is not good. Finding a job is even harder. Youth unemployment is now approaching 15%, the highest rate since 2010, coming out of the Great Recession. Will the Liberals stop asking young Canadians to make more sacrifices, finally keep their promises, so young Canadians can have an affordable budget for an affordable home?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
I've traveled across this country. I've met with union leaders. I've met with workers, and they're excited about our plan to build big and build bold, build infrastructure project, build Canada homes, because of the opportunities it creates. Opportunities to bring in high school students, opportunities to bring in apprentices, opportunities to invest in the next generation of skilled workers. Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives want an affordable budget for an affordable life, they have the opportunity to vote for one today. Will they join us?
Honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing generational with Liberal deficits is the debt that the next generation must pay. Exactly. Liberal inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of everything. Young Canadians can't find jobs, they can't afford homes, and they can't even afford food. 25% of Canadians face food insecurity. They're sacrificing by cutting back on nutritious food. It's gone so bad that recipes for poverty potlucks and struggle meals, like those using Hamburger Helper and instant ramen, are now trending on social media. When will the Liberals finally stop breaking their promises, get spending under control, and deliver what young Canadians actually need? An affordable budget for an affordable life.
Secretary of State.
Again, those words, we keep hearing those words from the Conservatives, but the reality of the situation is that every time there's an opportunity to vote for measures that help Canadians, they vote against it. They vote against no to dental care. They vote against no to the National School Food Program, which they call garbage, Mr. Speaker. They said no to the increase of Canada Child Benefit, no to a tax cut that helps 22 million Canadians. While they keep saying no, our government is investing to help families, yes, to lowering costs for Canadians, yes, to building a stronger future for Canadians. So, Mr. Speaker, today they'll get another chance to vote for a budget that is affordable for Canadians. Will they join us?
The honourable member for Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
Mr. Speaker, food insecurity is not good, and finding a job is even harder. Those are the words of a 19-year-old from Atlantic, Canada. Youth employment is skyrocketing, nearly 15%, and this Prime Minister have told Canadians they needed to make more sacrifices, but they've already sacrificed enough. Young people are having to sacrifice working in their hometown because they have to go away for work. This means that our kids will be fast sacrificing dinners with grandma. When will these Liberals get over their overspending, get spending under control so that the Canadians can have an affordable life and not get stuck with the bill?
Right. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so proud to be able to stand today in reference to the opposition member from Newfoundland and Labrador and talk about the measures that we are putting in place for young workers to train in construction, welders, the work that we need to build Canada strong, happening in our province. I was so proud to make that announcement last week. That's just one of the many measures, not to mention the programs for children and families. I really hope this member votes for the budget.
Hear, hear. The member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, the world economy is shifting, and Canada must rise to meet this unprecedented moment. Global trade is in disarray, tariffs reshaping markets, and our largest trading partner increasingly unreliable. Budget 2025 is our chance to act. Can the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the CRA explain how Canada will meet this moment with a historic investment budget?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for that great question. This is a transformational moment. We will pivot from an era of reliance to resilience. With Budget 2025, we're laying the groundwork to some of the investments, some of the biggest investments this country has seen since the Second World War. We will spend less in government operations. We will invest more in Canadians, invest more in Canada. This is our moment, Mr. Speaker. Our time to build big, build bold, and build now. It's time to build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Inflation is up another 4% because of the Liberals' hidden industrial carbon tax and tax on food packaging. Now, the Liberals will like to say that these are just imaginary taxes, but experts at the Agriculture Committee yesterday confirmed not only are these taxes not imaginary, they are in fact driving up the price of groceries. And I want to quote Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who said wholesale food prices have increased, and one of the factors driving this is the carbon tax. And so we are very concerned, and we expect food inflation to be a problem moving forward. So will the Prime Minister stop his inflationary budget and scrap his taxes on food so Canadians can afford?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, once again, there is no tax on plastic food packaging. They can keep saying it if they want, but it doesn't make it
doesn't
true.
exist.
But you know what is true? We are going to be tabling a budget today. It's going to support Canadians. It's an important, big moment for our country as we build our country and we build it well. I hope that the Conservatives will support us.
The honourable member for Foothills.
They've been in charge for 10 years, and now they're going to drop a budget bomb that Canadians have to sacrifice for. After they've been through one of the easiest periods of time, I'm sure the pandemic was a problem. They should not have printed all that money. But what is coming?
Well, imaginary things like Deloitte and Dr. Sylvain Charlebois have already confirmed what Canadians know. These are not imaginary taxes. They are struggling to pay these taxes every single day at the grocery store. The food professor said as a result of the industrial carbon tax and taxes on food packaging, Canada is the only G7 country where food inflation has increased for 4 straight months. And it's only going to get worse, which is scary when we have 2.2 million Canadians forced to use a food bank. Will the Prime Minister scrap his taxes on food so Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, these are imaginary taxes. They do not exist. There is no tax on food packaging. He can cite all of the imaginary people that he wants to cite. There are no taxes on food packaging. And good news, this budget won't include any either.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar this Liberal government spends comes straight from the pockets of hard-working Canadians. More government deficits mean higher taxes and more inflation, jacking up the cost of living already. Canadians are struggling. Nicole, a single mom from Oxford, works 2 jobs, 70 hours a week, barely sees her kids, and still can't make ends meet. These stories from like Nicole and others are now becoming the norm thanks to Liberal deficits. So instead of trying to cause a costly election on their costly budget, why won't they table an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, I want to highlight today that the opposition can offer Nicole and those single parent households the support of a future that is based in today's budget that will be presented. Wow. My colleagues today have the chance to protect those very futures that they speak about, including those young Indigenous children, the fastest growing population who need us and depend on the programs that we have put in place. Canadians chose a Prime Minister with a vision that they trust. We hope the opposition will prioritize protecting Canadians' budgets that they need in this critical time. We know that we all...
The honourable member for Oxford.
Canadians have seen this nightmare before. Empty Liberal promises can't feed empty stomachs. When Liberals recklessly spend, it's Canadians who pay the price. Higher grocery prices, higher rents, more on gas, and the only thing that is growing in this Liberal economy are the lines at food banks, with over 2 million folks now visiting food bank in a single month. Yep. Liberal deficits mean higher taxes, higher inflation, meaning life is more expensive for Canadians. So I'll ask again, instead of trying to cause a costly election on their costly budget, why won't they table an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, once again with the imaginary taxes, Mr. Speaker, but I'll tell you something that isn't imaginary, because I get to be the House Leader and actually see things that aren't imaginary. We are debating C4, which does 3 things. It cuts income taxes on every single person that pays income tax. It cuts the GST for first-time home buyers. And guess what? It gets rid of the carbon tax, Mr. Speaker. But these Conservatives play games and procedures and talk around these things to delay affordability measures that are quite real, not imaginary for Canadians. They should...
L'honorable député de Beauce.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, Liberals are taking money out of Canadians' pockets with inflation caused by their deficits This is threatening our children's future, which is unacceptable. This record-breaking deficit budget will destroy our children's dreams. That is unacceptable. The Liberals are also going to trigger a costly election with a costly budget. Why not present an affordable budget so that Canadians can have an affordable life? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Well, it's very clear that each word that comes out of a Conservative member's mouth actually comes out of the Conservative leader's office. If they want to talk about the future, it's remarkable that when we see the lack of seriousness they show at question period, that Canadians chose a serious government that gives more purchasing power to the middle class, more opportunity to youth, that is creating more big projects to build our country. For once, I would invite the Conservatives to show some ambition for Canada and to support us in this budget.
Honorable député de Beauce.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, well, we are very nervous about what the Liberals are coming up with here. We were expecting $42 billion of deficit, but things are going to actually be much worse. This Liberal government is completely disconnected from reality. It is just spending and spending. Each dollar that the Liberals are spending is coming directly out of the pockets of people in my riding. Mr. Speaker, why not table an affordable budget to make Canadians' lives affordable? The Honourable Government House Leader. Well, it may not be in the notes that the leader of the Conservatives just gave my colleague, but he should speak to his colleagues who have been slowing down the adoption of Bill C-4, which would lower taxes for all those who pay income tax in Canada, which lowers the GST on homes for first-time homebuyers, and which also eliminates the carbon tax. The member across the way should stop slowing down that bill. That will bring more affordability to all of Canada.
Kamloops Thompson-Nicolau.
Mr. Speaker, I spent much of my legal career prosecuting internet offenses against children. This included possession of child sexual abuse material. Let's be clear, victims often serve a psychological life sentence. Last week, the Supreme Court of Canada struck down the mandatory 1 year in jail for possession of child sexual abuse and exploitation material. The minister said today that he won't use the notwithstanding clause on this ruling. So the question is this: why are the rights of victims second and the rights of sex offenders first?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, through actions, we are standing up for victims of crime.
Hear, hear.
Plain and simple, Mr. Speaker, child abusers should face the toughest penalties under Canadian law. That's why we introduced C-4.
These are obviously important issues, and therefore we deserve important debate. So the Secretary of State, from the top.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The rights of victims are very important to this government. That is why we have been taking action. And let me make it very plain and simple to the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. Child abusers should face the toughest penalties under Canadian law. That is why we introduced C-14. We're making reforms, sweeping reforms, Mr. Speaker, that make bail stricter, that make sentences tougher, and that make sure that child abusers stay behind bars. Mr. Speaker, we also introduced lawful access so that we can catch child predators and we can give law enforcement the tools that are needed, Mr. Speaker, but the Conservatives are against it.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops Thompson-Nicolau.
Mr. Speaker, Bill C-14 has nothing to do with mandatory minimums for those who possess and produce child sexual abuse and exploitation material. I have looked far too many victims in the eye to feel comfortable giving the answer that the minister just gave, Mr. Speaker. Victims don't want excuses, they want action. We often hear about charter rights for the accused, including pedophiles, but we don't hear about rights for the victims. If the minister has ruled out using the notwithstanding clause, what's his plan to take sex offenders off our streets?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Mr. Speaker, we've been taking action on this issue since day one. We introduced legislation called C-63 that made sexual offenses online, but the Conservatives did not support it, Mr. Speaker. We've brought lawful access provision so that child pedophiles can be caught, Mr. Speaker, but the Conservatives did not support it.
So I'm interested in hearing this answer. So the Secretary of State... Secretary of State may continue.
Mr. Speaker, child abusers are amongst the most reprehensible in our society. That is why we've taken many measures like C-63, like C-14, and like lawful access provisions so that they can be caught in the first place, Mr. Speaker. We're also going to be bringing forward new
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the recent Supreme Court decision, which stated that 1 year of imprisonment for having accessed or possessed child sexual abuse material, saying that this was cruel and unusual punishment, is a real insult to the victims of these crimes. The Conservative government had hardened minimum sentences for this content. It's very clear that this government, and I wonder why, is more protecting the rights of pedophiles than the rights of children.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, we are all about protecting the rights of children. That is why we want to give law enforcement the tools that are needed to catch predators online. We brought forward tougher sentences for child offenders. These child abusers should be put behind bars, and that is exactly where we intend to keep them through C-14 and the new legislation that we're going to be tabling in this House this fall.
Hear, hear.
Honorable Député de Bourassa.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, the global economy is at a critical moment. The international trade system is experiencing upheaval. And today, new tariffs seem like the rule rather than the exception. Our country is facing economic difficulties and more uncertainty. Our main trade partner is no longer as reliable as it used to be, which is making our economy go through a more precarious period. With Budget 2025 coming up, can the Minister for Canada-US Trade tell the House why this is a historic investment budget? The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Trade. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank our colleague for Bourassa for this question. This is a period of transformation, and we are laying the groundwork for significant investments, the most significant in Canada since the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected an ambitious government, a government that will take strong action to build a resilient economy. And the good news, Mr. Speaker, is that in just a few moments, the House of Commons will get all of that good news. I know that all parliamentarians are looking forward to it.
For Mission Mastery Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in the form of higher taxes and inflation. The Prime Minister tells young Canadians to sacrifice, yet Liberal insiders are thriving. Case in point, as Canadians give up on home ownership, this government handed out over $30 million in bonuses to 99% of housing agency executives, averaging $43,000 per bonus. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This new government has a very credible plan for building affordable housing. We are focused on delivering that affordable housing. $13 billion has been committed in this new budget. We hope the Conservatives will support this if they care about affordable housing. But, Mr. Speaker, they've voted against every affordable housing measure for 10 years now.
That's right.
I don't expect a lot from them, but when...
This guy is 61 years old. Tell me how that makes sense. Like, goodness gracious, what kind of herbs are in those Chinese herbs?
Canadians, and they're raising it in the House here. Young Canadians need affordable housing. We expect their support on this budget.
Honourable Member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years, Liberal insiders have never had it so good. Canadians line up at food banks while this government lets $50 million IBM contract at CRA blow past $119 million. On track for $214 million. Young Canadians are told to sacrifice, so Liberal-linked insiders, consultants can get rich. Canadians are stuck paying the bill. Instead of a costly election on a costly budget, why not affordable budget for an affordable life by cancelling consultants?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I got great news to the party opposite. We have an affordability measure that maybe they may be interested in, Mr. Speaker. It's automatic federal benefits. Wow. Giving benefits to 5.5 million Canadians that need them the most. Canada Child Benefit, Disability Tax Credit, GST credit. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are laser focused on affordability for Canadians. The other side continues with the rhetoric and same old slogans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar of the Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in the form of higher taxes and inflation. The Prime Minister tells young Canadians they need to sacrifice. While more families than ever are lining up at food banks, this Liberal government is using Canadian tax dollars to fund a whopping $25 billion a year on outside consultants. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Good question. The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, this is an historic day for our House. I thought we'd all be together. This is a historic day for our country. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we deliver affordability for Canadians, cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for GST for first-time home buyers. We are focused on affordability, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will deliver for Canadians. We got a mandate on April 28th to deliver affordability. The other side has handed one sheet around all question period. Same old rhetoric, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Prescott Russell Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, the world faces unprecedented uncertainty as the norms and institutions that underpinned global security and prosperity over the last half-century have been tossed aside as a new era of protectionism has begun. I'll be blunt. Voters in my riding of Prescott Russell Cumberland are anxious about what this new world order means for Canada. Can the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and CRA let those people know how Budget 2025 will meet this unique and historical moment?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for giving me the opportunity to inform the House that today we will table an historic budget that will spend less on operations and invest more in Canada. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite may not believe it, but we will build the strongest economy in the G7. This is the largest investment in our country since the Second World War. We will build big, we will build bold, and we will build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Caribou, Prince George.
First responders, nurses, and healthcare workers serve and protect our communities every day. Yeah. They put their uniforms on every day, knowing that their lives will be on the line, that they run towards danger. They mend our broken bones. They hold our hand as we take our last breath. What we've just seen by this Liberal government is shameful. Just before QP, I rose and asked for unanimous consent to pass a law that would protect firefighters, nurses, paramedics today, immediately, right now. The Liberals are using our frontline heroes as pawns in their political games. The minister has the power. Will he give unanimous consent to pass S-233?
Good question.
Frank. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I see I've been missed by my friends opposite. I have good news. On the subject that grounds the member's question, this is one where I think we can collaborate in a nonpartisan way. The government has just tabled legislation, Bill C-14, that includes protections for first responders by adding aggravating factors to their sentences, which will result in harder penalties for those who commit assaults against our
You're going to give him a standing applause for this trash?
The least we can do is offer the protection of Canada's criminal law. I will work across party lines with that member and with Conservatives in the Senate to adopt adoptions that will protect first responder as soon as possible.
Jump off a bridge.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians do not want coal mines destroying our cherished rock.
There's too much ambient noise. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians do not want coal mines destroying our cherished Rocky Mountains. 4 years ago, the minister promised new coal mine selenium regulations that would protect our rivers and lakes from toxic pollution. And now we discover that instead of providing protection, the Liberals are allowing a dramatic increase in the pollutants going into rivers and lakes. This government is betraying its promise to Canadians. When will this government finally put the health of Canadians and the environment ahead of foreign interests?
Well, Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, we have been very clear that we are going to continue to fight for clean air and clean waters for our next generations to come. As we continue to build Canada, we're going to build it well, and we will continue to make sure that we're protecting the environment at the same moment that we are building an economy with good jobs for the future. My job as Minister of Environment is to make sure that we continue to fight for the environment, and I will do it.
The honourable member for Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are being bled dry at the pump, at the grocery till, on their credit cards and mortgages, and by cell phone bills that just keep climbing, while corporate giants post record profits. Last year, RBC made $16 billion, Rogers $1.7 billion, Loblaws over $2 billion, and Imperial Oil almost $1 billion last quarter alone. How much profit is enough? And will this Liberal government include a corporate excess profit tax in this budget to finally protect Canadians from runaway corporate greed?
Honorable Ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my colleague. We need to make sure that we work together on making the life of Canadians more affordable. And that's why we believe in competition. That's why also we took a bold decision when it comes to telecommunications fees and upholding the CRTC decision to make sure there's more competition and therefore lower fees for Canadians. But we'll do more, and he just needs to read the budget regarding what's going to happen when it comes to our competition across the country. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
but
we're backing that up because I missed it.
To finally protect Canadians from runaway corporate greed.
Here we go, Jolie again. Like, what is she
Mr.
on
Speaker,
crack?
I agree with my colleague. We need to make sure that we work together on making the life of Canadians more affordable. And that's why we believe in competition. That's why also we took a bold decision when it comes to telecommunications fees and upholding the CRTC decision to make sure there's more competition and therefore lower fees for Canadians. But we'll do more, and he just needs to read the budget regarding what's going to happen when it comes to our competition across the country. Thank you.
That it's straight from China.
It being 3:09, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the first report of the Standing Committee on Human Resources, Skills and Social Development and the Status of Persons with Disabilities. Call in the members.
So they're not going to get into the budget right now. Like, there's a couple of hours. I think it's going to be in like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't think I'm going to do a live about that. I'd rather do a video maybe before that or something else. Maybe make a good one right after that's done. It's tricky to do. Like, you only get one window on YouTube no matter what you're doing. So, like, if you're doing a live show or if you release 10 videos a day, they get to share that 10 hours, and generally the one that was most recently uploaded. Anyways, that's all boring. What an interesting time in Canadian politics. I'm very curious to see what goes down with the budget tonight, because they're telling us and they have been saying this, if you've been paying attention, that like FPC has said this, Carney has said this, the parliamentary budget officer has said this, that it's going to be like World War II, like the budget. And I don't understand why that would be, besides big con. Like, they're trying to do in Canada what they did to the United States in 2008, which was to give back all the big businesses that were going to go bankrupt and demolish society. I assure you, society would exist with all those bigwigs. Like, there's no need for them. It's capitalism out of control. Not saying that it's not the best system, but at this point in its lifetime, it's probably not, because it's going to fall back on itself and implode. Which you can see, like, once they eliminate all the people and all the voters and all the jobs, who are they going to tax then? And who are they going to, falsely push the fake made money on? It'll only have to be themselves then. Weird. Anyways, kind of excited about this budget. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. My name is Aaron. We work so hard on this channel. I've got a couple of people that help me. I've got one person, especially Captain Kirk, who is a moderator on here, but also way more than that. He's sort of my balance between like when is a good decision or what is a good decision and what isn't. And he helps me with that quite a bit. Anyhow, thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Rhonda. My moderators are the best. Rory, Mr. Pickles, when you're around. Rhonda, I know you were away. Thank you. It's great that you're back. It helps. And I do think we're doing the right thing here. We don't try to sell stickers or sell false information or bullshit, whatever. I know that I try to show Canadians what it is I'm seeing as when I started doing the channel, I was not an informed Canadian about Canadian federal politics. I am now. Like, I know so much about this bullshit. Like, people get frustrated because they have to watch an hour of question period a day. And I understand an hour of question period a day is a lot to tolerate. But I watch so much more than that. It's gross. But it's my job. I chose to do it, but the thing is, my motivation really and truly isn't money, because I'd be trying to sell you something or sell you memberships. Like, I appreciate all my members. You really don't get a lot more for your money than recognizing that I appreciate your support, because there's just not time for it. There's so much information to get out there. And I'm not trying to save a country, but I'm trying to gain some voters or give some voters some insight into what really happens here in the trenches. Like, what they show you on the news isn't what really happens in Canadian federal politics. You kind of have to watch that like firsthand, as we do and show here in the trenches. I do show legacy media videos, but I believe that those videos that I show are more politics than legacy media. Like, it's to show how the legacy media treats the politics, when you also have it to, if you follow or watch enough of the videos on this channel, it balances out. You can see like the full story. I don't try to be deceptive in my titles or my thumbnails. I do try to pique interest, but I'm never going to say like, oh, it's over when it's not, or something like that. And there's so many people on here that do that. It's one of my frustrations. Like, when I see a video, I was like, oh my God, that happened. Then you watch and it has really, that person wasn't even in the video or something. It's crazy. Anyhow, that's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. We're going to wrap it up. That is it. We'll see what the budget brings. Good luck, Canadians. God knows what Carney and his cabinet of clowns and conspiracy, corruption are going to drop on your lap. That FPC, like, is a weasel. He'll lie right to your face right after he shows you that he spent way more money than was ever projected to be spent. And then he'll say, no, it's a blessing for Canada. We will not take any lessons from these conservatives. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, share, subscribe. Let's see what this budget has to bring. We're out. Ciao for now. Catch you tomorrow. Same time, same place. We'll see what kind of mess this budget is going to be.